Xiaomi released the Mi 11 few days before 2021, and it was the first smartphone to have the Snapdragon 888 chipset. Few days before 2022, Xiaomi released their new generation flagship lineup, which is the Xiaomi 12 series phones. They released 3 models: Xiaomi 12X, which is a high-end mid-range device. Then next to that is the Xiaomi 12, which is the base model of Xiaomi's new flagship lineup. And finally, the highest model out of the Xiaomi 12 series, which is the Xiaomi 12 Pro. The one that I got here is the Xiaomi 12. Since the Pro model is kinda pricey, and the Xiaomi 12X could have been better for the price. The Xiaomi 12 comes in 4 colors. The 4 colors are green, black, purple/pink, and finally blue, which is the one that I got here. On storage variant, you can choose between 8128GB, which costs 3,699 yen, then 8256GB, which costs 3,999 yen, or the 12256GB, which costs 4,399 yen. And yes, the one that I got here is the 8256GB variant. In the box, it includes the SIM ejector pin, clear jelly case, manual. This, I don't know what is this, but it has this removable sticker here, charging brick, charging cable, and finally the phone itself. Now onto software. This phone runs on MIUI 13, running on Android 12 out of the box. First thing I noticed here on MIUI 13 is that it's not that much different from MIUI 12.5. But yes, there are some new changes in the settings, like here on the refresh rate menu. But here on AI engine menu, we can see a new setting here, which is the super resolution, and it will upscale the resolution of videos. This option is new and won't be seen on other old Xiaomi smartphones. Then the AI engine enhancement, AI HDR enhancement, and MEMC can be seen on the Mi 11 from last year. And do take note, if you toggle on any of these features, it will increase your battery consumption. Then here on personalizations, here on the wallpaper, you can see that there are some new system wallpapers that can be used. And yes, there are live wallpapers. Here on the fingerprint animation, you can choose between these 4 here, which for me, the 2 butterfly animations doesn't quite fit my taste. And yeah, the others here are just your typical Xiaomi personalization features, like the always on display, icons, fonts, notification sounds, alarm sounds, ringtones, and the lock screen layout. And yes, you can put text on your lock screen, maybe your info or anything you want. Also here on the additional settings, there is a feature called Ignore Accidental Touch on the Edges. And here, you can set default big area, small area, or you can customize it yourself. For those who love watching Netflix and other media streaming apps, well, you're in good luck, because out of the box, the Widevine Level on this thing is on L1 already, which you can stream in full HD quality on this device. Here on the display, we have here a 6.28-inch Full HD Samsung OLED curved display with 120Hz refresh rate, 480Hz touch sampling rate with Dolby Vision, HDR10+, 1 billion colors, DCI-P3 rating, and A+ rated on Display Mate. And it is fully protected by Gorilla Glass Victus. The pixel density is at 418 ppi, which is very high for a 1080p display. And its display brightness is capped at 1100 nits. And so far, while using it outdoors, its brightness is good enough. Also here on the display is the under-display fingerprint scanner, and it is very snappy. Now onto build. We have here a aluminum frame, and the back is made out of glass that have a matte texture on it, which really makes this phone feel great in the hand, and fingerprints can't be seen easily. Here on the top of the phone, we can see the IR blaster, noise cancelling microphone, and its top firing speaker, or as we call it, the secondary speaker. And beside that is written sound by Harman Kardon. Here on the right of the phone, we can see the power button and the volume rockers. And finally, here on the bottom, we can see here the down firing speaker, the USB Type-C port, which has power delivery 3.0 and quick charge 4+, its main microphone, and finally its SIM tray slot, which only supports dual SIM 5G and no hybrid slot nor dedicated microSD card slot. And even if this doesn't have IP rating, Xiaomi still putted a rubber ring around the SIM slot to prevent water from coming in. For the battery, we have here a 4500 mAh battery, and for a whole day of use with a bit of gaming, so far with the out-of-the-box version that I got on MIUI, which is the MIUI 13.0.10, for me the battery is for recharging. It is capable up to 67 watts of wired charging and can do 0 to 100% in 39 minutes as advertised by Xiaomi. And on wireless charging, it can do up to 50 watts charging, which can do 0 to 100 in 53 minutes as advertised by Xiaomi. It can also do reverse wireless charging up to 10 watts. And here is an example of me using this reverse wireless charging feature on my wireless buds that supports wireless charging. And as you can see, it starts to charge. Now let's try with the clear jelly case on. And yes, it still works, even with the included case on. Now onto performance. Let us first check out the Antutu benchmark. And for your information, I will be turning on speed mode here on developer options. And finally, here on battery, I will set it to performance mode. And I will be toggling on the game turbo, and it is set at performance mode. And I will clear the memory right now. And now let's test the device. And here we got 863,000 points. And it's much lower than I tested a few days back. I don't know if it's because of the throttling, because I set them to performance mode and the speed mode here. But yeah, 863,000 it is on Antutu benchmark 9.2.6. And actually, while testing it a while ago, here's the benchmark monitor. And while the test is running, I tried to check here on the CPU temperature, and I was shocked that it reached 83 degrees Celsius. And to take note, it is set on performance mode here on game turbo 2. So yeah. And the speed mode is turned on the developer options, so they didn't limit the performance of this device. So they didn't mind if the device reached up to 83 degrees Celsius. But when using everything set on balance mode, with the speed mode turned off and without the game turbo, the device hit up to 63-64 degrees Celsius, but it cooled down really fast after the test. Now onto Geekbench 5. I will be turning off the game turbo here, and the battery will be set at balance mode, and I will turn off the speed mode here to prevent it from heating up that much. Since if you turn on those two, the performance mode on the battery and the speed mode, it won't mind even if the phone heats up to 80 something degrees Celsius. So yeah, I won't be toggling those on. And here on Geekbench 5, it performed good, but I think this has the same score as the Snapdragon 888. But still, this doesn't make this phone really bad. Now onto game optimization and performance. Here on Mobile Legends, as of now, the phone doesn't have the ultra frame rate mode available and ultra graphics. But I'm sure in the near future, Mobile Legends will enable those two, and so far, yes, the game doesn't frame drop. But one thing I noticed here is that the phone really heats up while I'm playing, but not to the point that it will be very hot. And yes, that can be resolved by Xiaomi in their future updates. Here on COD M, the phone can go up to the most maxed up settings, And yes, as of now, there is no 90 FPS option for the Battle Royale mode. But that doesn't matter too much, since in the future updates of the game, it will enable that option for this phone. And while playing, yes, it does heat up a bit. But once again, not to the point that it will throttle, and the performance here is really good since it doesn't lag at all. Here on Genshin Impact, when we set all graphics up to its highest and turning motion blur off, the game is smooth. And yes, when turning the speed mode on, it will make the game much more smoother and the average FPS much more higher compared to the speed mode off on the developer options. So far while playing this game, I tried playing this game for half an hour, and yes, the device do heat up, but it doesn't heat up to the point that it reached up to 60 plus degrees Celsius. I think it hovers around 48 to 49 degrees Celsius. And yes, there are some lags here and there and some stutters, but I think it is because I didn't rest this phone from the test a while ago, and the phone right now is at 20%. So I think that is the reason why the game is kinda laggy now. But I assure you that if you have the battery up to somewhere more than 30+%, the game will run much more smoother than now. Here on PUBG, we can set up to Ultra HD graphics and Ultra frame rate. But if you want to achieve extreme frame rate, you might need to dial down your graphics to HDR. While playing this game, on Ultra HD graphics, it doesn't lag at all and FPS is stable and the phone doesn't heat up too much. Now onto camera. Here on the back, we have a triple camera setup, a 50MP main, Sony IMX766 sensor with OIS. Then we have here a 13MP ultra-wide camera and finally a 5MP telemacro camera. Here are some sample shots from the three cameras. So far, I'm loving the shots taken on this phone, but I suggest turning off AI mode to make the image more true to life and not saturated. And the night mode here is stellar. And because it has OIS, capturing night mode shots here is very easy, and having night mode on is a very big help on making the surroundings very bright while making the image a tad more detailed. And it reduces the graininess of the image too. Here are some sample video and its microphone. So far, even if recording this at 1080p 60fps and 4K 60fps, the video looks very nice and the microphone is great too. Here on the front, we have a 32... Here on the front, we have a 32MP Samsung JD1 sensor, and using it in a slightly low lighted area, the image looks okay. Now on to speaker setup. We have here a stereo speaker setup, and the hardware is tuned by Harman Kardon and Dolby Atmos for the software. Here is the speaker test. This speaker sounds really good and it is very comparable to other flagship smartphones. And even while watching YouTube or TikTok, you can feel the difference of this speaker to other flagships or maybe mid-range smartphones. Onto the advantages of the phone. So far, this is the first compact flagship smartphone using the latest Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset. And because of its compact size, it is literally competing with Asus's Zenfone 8. But take note that the Zenfone 8 is last year's flagship device running on the last generation's Snapdragon 888 chipset and has a much more smaller display and overall size. But the real main competitor of Xiaomi is the iPhone 13 mini. I could say that if you are going to buy a small compact Android device that is the same size as the iPhone 13 mini, then I'd suggest you to get this since you'll get a good battery life and a flagship camera and processor. Another thing to mention here is that even though it is a 1080p display, the display here is really good. Since because of its small size, the 1440p resolution display that you see on other flagship devices doesn't really matter. And the fact that most of the people using a flagship device that can go up to 1440p resolution on its display always set their phone to 1080p resolution to have a much more longer usage on the device in one charge. Also, another advantage here is that the box has the included charger and cable inside. Since last year's Mi 11, Xiaomi didn't bother putting in the charger and cable on the box on its China version of the phone. Now onto the disadvantages. One thing I don't like here is that there is no headphone jack dongle, but you can buy one easily online. But for me, I don't find this as a big disadvantage since most flagship smartphones at this price doesn't include a dongle at all. A big disadvantage here is the very hot temps when playing a game for the first time. It is normal for new phones to heat up when you're playing a game first time on that device since it will eventually learn over time on how much processing it needs to power the game and not overusing the processor on a game that doesn't even need that much processing. So far, the heats here on the phone is slightly hot than that of a normal device, but it's not a big problem since you can either get a phone cooler for the meantime while Xiaomi will do updates on this phone to make the temps more stable and less hot. That's all for the advantages and disadvantages of the phone comparing to other phones at the same price segment. Now I will be sharing you my final verdict on this monstrous device. Let's start off by its software. The MIUI 13 doesn't feel that much of a big leap to the MIUI 12.5, but it feels more better, faster, and less heavy than the MIUI 12.5. Here on the performance side, the phone did great on day-to-day usage, even on games. It doesn't perform that great on benchmarks, but take note that this doesn't mean that the phone isn't that much better than the last year's Snapdragon 888/888 Plus, even if the Antutu score is on par with those of last year's chipset. The frame rates here are more higher and stable on very demanding games when comparing it to last year's chipset, despite of the low Antutu score when comparing it to the average Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 scores. For the build, I really love the very smooth curves of this phone, especially the smooth feel when sliding your finger from the back frame to the side frame and to the display. The haptics here is Flagship Level 2 and the sounds are very Flagship level. The display is pretty nice and bright for the display is pretty nice and bright. And for the camera, it is more than enough for a compact phone and for day-to-day photography and stuff. The battery life of the MIUI version 3 The battery life for the MIUI version 13.0.10 might not be the best, but there is an update to version 13.0.16, and yes, the future updates on this phone can make the phone's battery life more better than the current 13.0.10 that I have now. The curved screen on this device isn't aggressive, and I'm glad that they removed the waterfall curve here on the top and bottom edge of the screen, like we saw on the Mi 11 last year, which makes the Mi 11's display look really weird. Thank you for sticking up to the end of the video, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to help support my channel, and turning on the notification bell to never miss out any of my new uploads. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!